Okay, so Dimebag Darrell is without a doubt my favorite metal guitarist of all time, which probably isn't that big of a surprise considering how heavily influenced he is by Eddie Van Halen, who is my favorite guitarist of all time. Now, Dime has tons of cool stuff inside of his licks. Very, very unique, very original sounding. You know it's Dime as soon as you hear him. But what I want to do is dive into what I would call the Dime scale and show you some of these really cool symmetrical ideas that he has inside of his playing, very EVH inspired, and yet does his own thing with them and kind of show you where they're coming from. Now, I will have tabs for you guys down below because these licks are a little bit more shreddy and it might help to have some tabs there for you. And also, while you're at it, check out my 5-day fretboard challenge. If you dig this stuff, there's a lot of sequencing ideas involved in this 5-day fretboard challenge. Give it a go. And if you want more lessons, just subscribe. Anyways, it's Dime time. Okay, so let's dive into these. And I do want to say, these are not meant to be a note-for-note representation of what Dime played. Just getting the general idea. Some of them are, pretty close, but I'm more concerned about the concept and idea behind it that I want to break down than necessarily just the lick. So, the first one we have is, of course, that opening lick from Cowboys from Hell. Now, this is one that has been done a ton. There's lots of videos on this. And I wanted to throw it in here because I think it's important for kind of like setting the foundation and understanding where Dime got these ideas from. So you have this lick that goes like this. Okay, so that's the idea. Now, where do you think that concept of taking, a single shape and moving it across the strings came from? Well, that is obviously a very Eddie Van Halen thing. Now, the Eddie way of doing it would be this. Okay, Eddie's way, Dime's way. So Dime is obviously a much more metal and kind of dark version of what Eddie was playing. And here's how Dime played that. You pick the first 4 notes of the phrase, which is 11, 12, 15, and then 11 again, and then you hammer on the last 2. Again, very, similar to what Eddie would do with his idea of some notes picked, some notes not picked. So now all you're going to do is take this same shape and move it down across the strings, 1 string at a time. Picking stays the same, fingering stays the same, all the way. So move down to the D. And here's what stuff like this, at least it opened up doors for me mentally when I was playing, because I was focused more on it's like an A to B. I'm starting at A, which is in key and sounds really good. The middle stuff, when you're playing at a speed like this, kind of doesn't matter. I say that and I'm like, everything matters, but kind of doesn't, as long as you're ending in key. It's kind of like falling down stairs almost, but you land on your feet and you're like, all right, we're cool. So with this one, if I was to characterize like what Dime's hybrid scale is, because most scales that these, famous guitarists play, they kind of like pick and choose little pieces of other scales or notes that they've learned. I mean, Dime does a lot of blues, the blues scale, natural minor, and harmonic minor. And here, I mean, even while he's starting this, that's all harmonic minor. That's your 7 right there. That's that dark sound that most metal guys, tend to lean to. So that one's really fun and a pretty good one to start if you're not used to this kind of idea, and get it under your fingers and just have fun with it. Take any shape that you have, and just try moving across strings. Sometimes you just want almost like a noise effect. Like this is very musical and sounds like a lick. But sometimes you the background's going crazy and you're just, you just want some kind of lick that's taking up space and you're trying to convey this message of like, it's crazy and out of control. Well, you do that by playing something that's crazy and out of control. Okay, so on to lick number 2. Now this one is from the Domination solo. Dime does this really crazy big stretch lick, again taking one shape, moving it across the strings. And what I forgot to mention when I was talking about the scales that he combines with the harmonic minor, blues, natural minor, is he does a lot of diminished ideas as well. I mean, lots of diminished stuff. And it always sounds cool, because diminished is that thing in a solo that always sounds wrong in the most right way possible, if that makes sense. So when Dime does this lick here, again, the pattern is very, very similar to something like the jump solo from Eddie Van Halen. But what has Dime done again? Metaled it up and turned it into a dime lick. And that's what we can do with this stuff too. Learn it like this and figure out ways to incorporate some of these big stretches into your own playing. Because this one is going to go 12, 15, 18 on the low E string. And you do that across all the strings. But you move 3 strings at a time and then back 1 string. So you go 12, 15, 18, go down to the A, 12, 15, 18, go down to the D, 12, 15, 18. Now go back to the A. So you're down 3, up 1, down 3, up 1. Or if you want to do it the other way, up 3, down 1. However you want to view the notes. Okay, back to the A. So 12, 15, 18, 12, 15, 18, 12, 15, 18. Go back to the D. Back to the G. And you have your lick. So one thing I want to break down a little bit further inside of this is there's a really cool diminished idea happening right inside of the lick. Now, Dime is of course taking this and just moving it straight through the string, so he's passing in and out of different scales or keys, really. He's just kind of doing whatever he wants. That's the Dime scale. Do whatever you want. But inside of it, guys like Jeff Loomis or Paul Gilbert in the early Bass Rex days did these really cool string skipping diminished arpeggios that's actually happening inside of this. So if you take your normal diminished idea, something like that, okay, and typically people play them kind of more boxy, almost like the Yngwie style, where you move up, which sounds great. It's a really cool lick. What's happening here is we're looking at and combining 2 different boxes of that diminished scale. So think about it, you're just taking a high string right here. I think that's cool. And what guys like Jeff Loomis or like I said Paul Gilbert would do is they string skip to get this lick. I mean, it's a sweet lick. So just a little something extra to throw in that you can do with that one, which is really what Dime's doing, but he's just adding the B string. So anyways, Domination, Diminished, Dimebag Darrell. Alright, and the final one, I'm going to actually hit you with 2 different ideas. I'll tab out the main one here, which is from the Cowboys from Hell solo. But, Dime does a lot of really cool stuff inside of it. And to avoid getting too complex, because his is very sporadic and random at times. You can tell a lot of times he's just improvising these fast runs. But he has this big stretch idea, which is very similar to the Ice Cream Man solo. Yet again, Dime has made it more metal sounding. And he does this pattern. Now, what I'm going to do here is reach all the way up to 19, and I'm pulling off to 12. So all we need to do is get this first string under our fingers, and then we know that we just have to move it across the strings. So you're going to go 19 to 12, 15, back to 19. So pull off the 12, or sorry, pull off 15, pull off 12. So it goes 19, 12, 15, 19, 15, 12. Get to where you can cycle that pattern. Now, this is very similar to that diminished one we did, but what he's doing is he's actually extended it a little bit further. If you want to be diminished, you just move that 19 to 18. Diminished. Diminished. This is actually the same lick that is in the In My Dream solo from Dokken. Now, what Dime does when he's playing this lick is he slides a lot of times. He does a really cool thing in his style of playing, where he slides up with his pinky. I'm not good at that, but those Dime aficionados, you guys can probably do that all day long. Now we're just going to move this shape across the strings. So 19, 12, 15, 19, 15, 12. Move to the G. Same thing, go to the D. Now I'm only picking the first note of each one. Go to the B, G, D, A. Lowest string. You could also tap this, but it doesn't look as cool when you get the big old stretch. And it gives you, there's different control that you have to it. So, now I'm not going to tab this one out, but Dime does a similar lick in the Psycho Holiday solo, just of course in a different key, where he's up here. But he goes to this lick, he goes, you know, it's such a cool lick, and I don't know exactly how Dime does it, but I know the notes are, you know, 15, 18, and then 22, so it's the exact same shape as this one, but just moved up to the key of G. So, you know, again, just kind of taking that pattern and moving it, you know, across the strings. But anyways, that's the Dime scale. Now, what you can do with this in your own playing is, like I said, find what sounds good to you. I think that's the most important thing. And what this opened up to me was that it gives you the ability to escape the scales a little bit. Because what happens is, you know, as soon as you get any kind of, like, we'll just say schooling, or, you know, you're taught this is the scale. When you have this chord, you play this. When you do this, sometimes it becomes difficult to break away from that stuff. And when you have guys like Dime and Eddie and all these guys who just kind of take the shape and move it across the strings, they're like, I don't know what, you know, I don't know what these notes are in correlation to the key. I know that it sounds really good and it sounds awesome. So, you know, try to adapt both mindsets. There's nothing wrong with knowing a bunch of theory, understanding where stuff comes from. There's also nothing wrong with just playing a lick that sounds sick. Alrighty, gang, I think that will be it. So thank you all, as always, for tuning in. You know, I haven't done a lot of Dime stuff, but, you know, maybe we'll do more if you guys dig it. So make sure you check out those tabs down below and the 5-day fretboard challenge. And just subscribe. If you made it to the end of the video, come on, hang out with us again. Come back. And, yo, I'll see you all next time. Later, homies. Peace.